I've interviewed probably over 300 people who've had these experiences, and all of them have been dramatically changed. Their lives have been changed by these near-death experiences. You can't say that
Was the
about
experience
hallucinations.
dreamlike in any way? And I've actually recently done a formal study of that. Near-death experiencers are emphatic when asked directly, and I did, was the experience dreamlike in any way? The answer is a resounding no. It isn't close at all to a dream.
The near-death experience is, in fact, the dying experience. We will all have this experience. But
then, as I'm going down into this, I begin to look into the flames, and I begin to see people. I mean, there's thousands. There's too many. I don't know how many people are in the flames. And they're screaming, and their arms are flailing, and their bodies are rolling, and they're burning all over. They're burning like in liquid fire.
I am telling you the truth. Those who hear my words and believe in him who sent me have eternal life. They will not be judged, but have already passed from death to life. I am telling you the truth.
Is there really life after death? Every person has probably asked that question at least once in his or her lifetime. Do we cease to exist the day we exhale our last breath? Or is there more to it than that? In this program, we'll be talking to experts in both the medical and the scientific fields, as well as to people who've literally been to hell and back and experienced a heaven beyond their wildest dreams. So join us, if you dare, as we...
But what exactly is an NDE experience, medically speaking? As the name NDE implies, these people have some event in which they are severely physically compromised. Generally, there's a severe physical malady that occurs suddenly or at the end of a chronic illness. NDEs are often associated with cessation of heart function and cessation of breathing function, or very often both. As a consequence of that, within 10 seconds following cessation of heart function, blood stops flowing in the brain, and the EEG, which measures the electrical brain activity, goes flat, implying that there is no electrical activity in the brain. Given that when you stop breathing and your heart stops, and given that 10 seconds after that the EEG, the measure of electrical brain activity, goes absolutely flat, it's medically inexplicable that near-death experiencers are having a conscious experience. For years, however, some medical researchers had dismissed the NDE phenomenon as hallucinations caused by the dying body releasing a chemical cocktail as a means of defense against the pain and shock of impending death. That theory was dented in 1984 by an extraordinary medical emergency in the American West Coast city of Seattle. Maria, a migrant worker from Eastern Europe, was rushed to hospital after she collapsed at a friend's home. In the ICU, a medical team tried to stabilize her condition without success. Her heart stopped beating. Maria's body was lifeless for several minutes, but the doctors kept on trying to bring her back to life. Then they suddenly realized that the heart monitor showed some life. Maria was supposed to be dead. Maria came back to life and immediately told an amazing story. She saw everything while she left her body. She could see the medical team working on her. She then left the ICU to the roof of the hospital, and as she went up, saw a tennis shoe. No one believed her story, but her friends immediately ran up to the roof and with absolute shock found the tennis shoe exactly as described by Maria. Maria's experience could not be anything other than the absolute truth. If the out-of-body experience was purely a mental aberration, how could she have seen a physical reality that could later be verified? After Maria's revelation, other similar stories began to emerge of NDE patients undergoing out-of-body experiences and being able to relate verifiable details that they could not have imagined. Can we still say NDEs are hallucinations?
I think in terms of, yes, certainly in terms of the consistency of the testimonies in near-death experiences, it suggests that the experience is a reality which is not purely the product of brain chemicals, because, I mean, we know from studies of the effects of drugs ordinarily that if you give one person a drug and then give the same drug to another person, they'll have two completely different experiences. There might be broad similarities, but not the level of consistency you find with a near-death experience.
There's no person can dispute whether these experiences are the normal functioning of the brain at the point of death, or rather represent some sort of chaotic hallucinatory activity. Remember, hallucinations involve the perception of something that isn't real. So when we die, we're alert, we're conscious, we're aware of this reality, so certainly people having near-death experiences accurately describe what's happening in this reality. But the key element of the near-death experience is that we perceive, I say we, as all of us are going to have this experience, we perceive another reality superimposed over this one. I resuscitated a young boy about 8 years old who had massive cardiac failure in the lobby of Seattle Children's Hospital. Dramatic resuscitation. After we successfully brought him back to life, he opened his eyes and he goes, "That was weird. You guys just sucked me back into my body." He accurately described everything that was happening to him. He could see the top of one of our attending physicians' heads who was starting to go bald, and accurately described that, even though we knew at this time he was comatose. In addition, he said that while he was being resuscitated and his heart had stopped, he was on the ceiling looking down at us, and he was bathed in a white light, a white light that he thought was something trying to keep him safe. So what if that experience could be a hallucination? Well, clearly he accurately described what happened to him, so that part wasn't a hallucination. But you could say the hallucinatory elements then were this white light. Is that white light real or not? I don't know.
But in terms of spiritual importance, near-death experiences have clear spiritual importance. People often regard themselves as having changed their life entirely as a result of the joyful experiences they have near death. And even in negative near-death experiences where people have trips that are hellish, people often report life-changing events. And arguably, even if it were brain chemical changes that were responsible for the actual near-death experience, and therefore it's a hallucination, the consequences could still